Luke Robinson here with the Bradberry Medical Center Alabama Minute. Well, I've been telling you, every time we have a Bradberry Medical Center Alabama Minute, I've said over and over again that the Alabama baseball team, their record was fool's gold, and you know what? It turns out I may be right. Alabama goes down to Gainesville and is swept in impressive fashion by the Florida Gators. Alabama just did not have the bats, didn't have the pitching, didn't have the fielding to keep up with the Gators, unfortunately, for the Tide. I don't really know what that means for this team. They've got Mississippi State coming up. At Mississippi State, generally, that is a house of horrors for most teams in the SEC. But this year, I think Alabama's got a chance to go over there and maybe steal two away from the Bulldogs, as they did go to Ole Miss earlier this year and got two away from the Rebels. So maybe the state of Mississippi will be kind to Alabama again. And Alabama fans certainly have to hope so, as things have gotten really ugly here lately. They've been on a pretty bad losing streak. Of course, they were swept against Vanderbilt a couple of weeks ago and then dropped 2 of 3 to a very bad Tennessee team the weekend after that, and then the sweep to the Florida Gators. So Alabama's going to have to get back on the winning track somehow. And hopefully at Mississippi State, that'll start. Then they come home to face LSU and then end the season at Auburn. Meanwhile, pretty bad news for the softball team, too. They were ranked number 3 heading into this weekend. In every game against Florida, they had the lead, and they lost the last 2 games in walk-off fashion against the Gators. So things didn't work out for Alabama, and they drop all the way to number 6. I don't think that's such a big deal for this softball team. I still think they're going to definitely be one of the favorites when it comes time to decide a national champion. But, of course, you want to win all that you can, and you'd like to win the conference title as well. Alabama's 1 game back of the Tennessee Volunteers. Of course, Thursday night will be the NFL Draft. Alabama's had a lot of luck recently with the NFL Draft, and as long as Nick Saban's the coach at Alabama, I think that you'll see multiple titers in the first couple of rounds of every single draft as he keeps bringing in those great recruiting classes. Last year, of course, you had Rolando McClain going to Oakland. He made a big-time name for himself with the Raiders and quickly became a fan favorite. Kareem Jackson went to the Houston Texans, and I think that he played pretty well. He could have done a little better, and I think that maybe he didn't do quite as well as they thought he would. But again, he's a youngster, and sometimes when you're a youngster, especially at the cornerback position, you're going to have your fair share of touchdowns given up. This year, Alabama's, you could see Marcel Darius go as high as number 1. I think the floor is number 2 to the Denver Broncos, but I think that Cam Newton's probably secured that number 1 spot now with the Carolina Panthers. So I'm assuming that the Denver Broncos will take Marcel Darius at number 2. Then you'll have Julio Jones going next from Alabama. He is projected to go anywhere from 6 to 10. My bet is on number 6 to the Cleveland Browns, and that'd be an interesting catch for the Browns if they were to get him. And then, of course, they have Colt McCoy at quarterback. So you could see the number 1 quarterback and the number 1 receiver from the national championship game 2 years ago. That would certainly be interesting. And then finally, Mark Ingram. A lot of people have him going to the Dolphins at around number 15. He could fall all the way to the Patriots at number 28. Hard to say where Mark Ingram is going to go right now. There are a lot of teams out there that still have questions about his knee. But I'll say this, he could have a fantastic career in the NFL because he runs so well between the tackles. He doesn't have that breakaway speed that a lot of teams look for, but he ran a lot better than people thought he would at the Combine, so that may help him out too. That's going to do it for the Bradberry Medical Center Alabama Minute. Thanks so much for joining us, and we'll be back next week.